The wind outside Orion's spire was soft, barely moving the glow banners hanging from the 100th floor. It was almost midnight in the city, where sky trains hovered silently between towers and the stars above flickered beyond the protective dome. Mira stood at the base of the building, holding a small work bag and looking up at the lights far above. Her friend, Lonnie, had begged her that afternoon, "Just one night, Mira. Please, my cousin's getting married, and I can't miss it." Mira had hesitated, but only for a moment. She always helped when she could. That's who she was. Now, she walked through the sliding glass doors of NovaCore Systems, the most advanced tech company in the city. She had cleaned many offices before, but never this one. And certainly never the top floor. The front desk robot scanned her ID chip and gave her a soft beep of welcome. A silent elevator opened without a word. She stepped in, and the glass walls wrapped around her as the lift shot upward, higher and higher, until the city below looked like toy blocks in fog. When the doors opened, Mira stepped into a space unlike anything she'd seen. The top floor was massive, filled with soft light and clear walls that shimmered gently. Tables floated just off the ground. A few small helper bots moved around, polishing already clean surfaces. Everything looked perfect cleaner. Then clean. She adjusted her cleaning gloves and stepped forward. Her boots made no sound on the smooth black floor. "Guess I'll start from the far end," she whispered to herself. As she walked past a curved wall of transparent glass, she noticed something odd. Someone was sitting near the edge of the room, by a tall window that looked out over the entire city. A man, in plain clothes, simple gray shirt, dark pants, no badges or suit. He held a cup of something steaming and didn't look up when she entered. She paused. Was he staff security? "Excuse me," she said quietly, keeping her voice polite. "Just here for cleaning. I can come back later if—" He looked up. His eyes were sharp but tired, not angry, not surprised. "Just calm, it's all right," he said. "You're not bothering me." She gave a small nod and turned to begin wiping down a floating table. As she worked, she could feel his gaze once or twice, but he said nothing more for a while. The silence wasn't heavy. It was peaceful. After 10 minutes, Mira finished the first section and moved to the area near the window. The man was still there. "I don't think I've seen you here before," he said. "I'm not really supposed to be," Mira replied honestly. "I'm covering for a friend." He smiled a little. "That's kind of you," Mira shrugged. "She needed help, that's all." There was a short pause. Then he asked, "Do you like working night shifts?" She gave a short laugh. "Not really, but it pays, and there are fewer people to bump into." "I clean better when it's quiet," he nodded. "I understand. Quiet is rare these days." He stood slowly and walked over to a tall glass panel that lit up when he touched it. A soft blue light filled the room as a star map appeared. "Do you know what that is?" he asked, pointing at one of the stars. Mira walked over and squinted. "That one? Not sure. I'm not great with space stuff." "It's called Iris 9, he said, "one of the newer colony hubs. Took over 20 years to build." She raised her eyebrows. "Ever been there?" He smiled. "No, but I've seen the reports." "Must be nice," she said, then quickly added, "I mean, having access to that kind of view." He didn't seem offended. Instead, he studied her for a moment. "What's your name?" he asked. "Mira." "Mira," he repeated, as if tasting the sound. "I'm Rian," she smiled. "Nice to meet you." They stood side by side, looking at the city lights below and the stars above. For a moment, it didn't feel like worker and stranger. It felt like two people escaping the noise of the world. "What do you really want to do?" he asked suddenly. She looked at him, surprised. "What do you mean?" "Cleaning can't be your dream job." Mira laughed softly. "It's not. But dreams cost credits, and my little brother needs school fees. So this is what I do. For now." He nodded slowly. "You're honest." She looked at him closely now. His face had lines near the eyes, not old, but not young either. Strong, but quiet. The kind of face that saw too much and spoke too little. Placed his empty cup on the edge of a glowing panel. "Well, Mira, I hope your shift ends with no messes tonight." "Thanks," she said. "So far, so good." He started walking toward the exit, then turned. "Maybe I'll see you again." "Maybe," she replied. When the door closed behind him, Mira stood still for a moment, her hands resting on her mop dot. She didn't know who he really was. She didn't. No, she had just met the most powerful man in the building, the CEO who owned the floor she stood on. All she knew was that, for the first time in a long while, her heart felt a little lighter. Mira didn't expect to see him again after the late-night shift. She went back to her usual cleaning job on level 24, where floors were dusty, lights flickered, and no one said thank you. That top floor, with its floating tables and soft lights, felt like a dream now. The man with the tired eyes and quiet voice, Rian, was just a stranger she'd met once. But 2 days later, Lonnie called her again. "Still need your help, Mira. One more night, please?" Mira sighed. "Again?" "My cousin's wedding turned into a family sleepover. I can't leave without causing drama. You're a lifesaver." So once again, Mira found herself standing in front of the tall glass elevator that led to Novacore's top level. As before, the ride up felt like a trip to the sky. The city shrank beneath her. The stars above seemed closer. When the doors opened, she stepped into the same quiet space. It looked just as she remembered: shining floors, soft hum of helper bots, and wide windows showing the world below. And there he was again. Rian. He stood near the edge of the glass wall, looking out over the city with his hands in his pockets. When he heard her footsteps, he turned. "You came back," he said, as if they were old friends. Mira gave a small smile. "Just filling in again. You still working late?" "I like it quiet up here," he said. "No meetings, no noise." She moved to her cleaning station and began wiping the side panels of a long table. He walked over to the tea machine and poured himself a cup. Then, without asking, he poured another. He held it out to her. "Mint, not too hot." Mira looked at it, surprised. She took it gently. "Thanks." They sat together on a bench by the window. The stars blinked in the sky. From up here, the city seemed peaceful, like a sea of tiny lights. Rian sipped his tea. "You said your brother's in school?" "Yes," Mira nodded. "He's 15, smart, but he needs structure. Our parents passed away years ago." "I'm sorry," he said quietly. She shrugged, but her eyes were distant. "Life moves on. I do what I can." Rian was quiet for a moment, then said, "You remind me of someone. My mother worked nights too. Always tired, always smiling." Mira looked at him with surprise. "Your mother worked cleaning shifts?" He nodded. "Not here, but yes. She taught me to respect everyone, no matter their job." Mira looked down at her hands. "Most people don't see us. Just another uniform." Rian leaned back slightly. "That's their loss." She looked at him again. He didn't speak like other rich people. No fake compliments. No cold tone. Just calm honesty. "So what do you do here exactly?" she asked, curious. "I manage systems," he replied. "Mostly operations, sometimes decisions." That's a big answer for a small question. He chuckled softly. "It's a complicated place." Mira smiled. "Well, you're lucky. You get the nice view." He looked around. "Do you like it?" She nodded. "It's peaceful. Like being above the world for a little while." Rian studied her face. "Would you change anything here if you could?" Mira blinked. "In Novacore?" "Yes," she hesitated, then said, "I'd start by fixing the lower floors. Some lights don't even work. Cleaning bots are broken. People feel forgotten." He nodded slowly, like he was storing her words in his mind. You notice everything, he said. I have to. She replied, if I don't, who will? He was silent again. Mira could see thoughts turning in his mind. Just then, a small cleaning drone near the wall made a strange sound and stopped moving. Mira stood up. Oh no, not this again. She knelt beside it, tapping a small panel near the side. Rian watched as she carefully reset the motor line and tightened a loose wire with a small tool she kept in her bag. Where did you learn that? He asked. My uncle used to fix machines. He taught me little things. You're full of surprises. Mira smiled as the drone came back to life and floated off. There, saved Novacore a few credits. Rian laughed, a sound she hadn't heard from him before. It was light and real. You know, he said, you're not like most people I meet. In this building, Mira raised an eyebrow. Is that good or bad? It's honest, he said, and rare. They sat in silence again for a while. Time seemed to slow on the top floor. Finally, Mira stood. I should get back to work. Don't want to break the perfect silence. Rian stood too. Thanks for the tea company. She looked at him. Thanks for the tea. As she walked back toward the other side of the room, Rian remained still, watching her go. He didn't say it aloud, but something inside him had shifted. He had all the data in the world. Charts, numbers, and algorithms. But this young woman with her quiet strength and real heart was teaching him more than any file ever could. She had no idea who he really was, and he wasn't ready to tell her yet. Mira returned to her normal shift the next night, but her mind didn't stay on level 24. Her body cleaned windows and wiped floors, but her thoughts kept drifting upward to the stars, to the glass walls, and to Rian. He had made her feel seen. Not just like a cleaner, but like a person. She shook her head and kept working. Don't be silly, she muttered to herself. He's just a man with tea and kind words. Still, when Lonnie called again and begged her to take one more shift, Mira didn't even argue. By now, she knew the elevator to the top floor better than her own hallway. The moment she stepped out, the space welcomed her like an old friend. Calm lights, smooth air, and peaceful silence. And like before, he was already there. Rian stood near the center of the room, looking at a glowing screen that showed maps of distant planets. His hands were behind his back, posture quiet but firm. He turned when he heard her footsteps. I was wondering if you'd come again, he said. Just doing a favor, Mira said, her voice light but her eyes warm. Rian smiled. Then I'm lucky your friend has so many events. They shared tea again. This time he added honey. Mira approved. As she worked, they talked. Not about work or rules, but about real things. What do you think makes a place good? Rian asked once. Mira thought for a second. Kind people. Fair rules, safe corners, clean air. It doesn't have to be shiny. Just honest. Rian nodded slowly, like her words meant more than she knew. Later that night, while Mira was checking a hallway panel, she heard a strange sound near the supply zone, a low buzz. Then a crack. She rushed over and found a small service android on the floor. It had crashed into a wall. Its front arm was sparking, and its system lights were flickering. Oh, no. Mira dropped to her knees. Rian followed quickly. Is it damaged badly? Not sure yet, Mira said, already opening the panel. These models break often. Cheap wiring. She moved fast but gently. Rian watched her fingers work with surprising skill. She disconnected the broken wire and patched it using a spare piece from her belt kit. After a few seconds, the spark stopped. The android's lights turned solid blue again. It made a soft sound, almost like a sigh. There we go, Mira smiled. You're back, little one. The android floated up and gave a grateful chime before rolling off. Rian stared at her. You fixed it like a pro, Mira shrugged. They can't call the tech team for every small thing, we learn. But you didn't have to fix it. No one was watching. Mira looked at him, her face soft but serious. Someone was hurting. Even if it's a machine. You don't just walk away. Rian didn't speak for a while. In his head, her words echoed louder than any boardroom speech. He had read reports about failing service bots. He had seen budget cuts on maintenance. But seeing her care, her instinct to help, even a broken machine shook him. She wasn't rich. She wasn't powerful. But in that moment, Mira felt more human than anyone he worked with. He leaned against the wall beside her. "You're different, Mira," she chuckled. "Is that a compliment or a warning?" "It's both," he said, smiling. "You speak from the heart." "I don't know how else to speak," she replied. They sat in silence again, watching a few stars blink across the glass ceiling above them. Then Rian asked, "If you had a chance to change this company, what would you do first?" Mira blinked. "You ask deep questions." "I like your answers," he said simply. She thought carefully. "Well, I'd start by fixing the lower floors. Not just the lights, but the way people feel down there. They think no one sees them. They think only the top floor matters." Rian looked down. "That's not good." "No, it's not," Mira said. "People lose heart when they feel invisible." He turned toward her. "Do you feel invisible?" She didn't answer right away. "Not up here," she said softly. "But most days, yes." Rian felt a strange twist in his chest. He didn't know when it had happened, but Myra's words had begun to light something inside him. Not just interest, but purpose. Later that night, after she finished her tasks and prepared to leave, Rian walked with her to the elevator. "You know," he said, "I never liked this floor. It always felt cold." She looked around. "Funny, it feels warmer now," he smiled. "Maybe that's because you're here." Mira raised an eyebrow. "Careful, that almost sounds like flirting." He laughed, just stating facts. They stood near the elevator, silent once more. Then he said quietly, "Would you come again tomorrow?" She looked at him, unsure. "Lonnie might return, but if she doesn't?" Mira hesitated, then nodded. "All right, one more night." The doors opened. She stepped inside. As the elevator took her back to the lower levels, Mira leaned against the glass and let out a long breath. Something was happening. Something she didn't fully understand yet, but deep down she felt it growing like a soft light in a dark hallway. And somewhere high above, the CEO of Novacore Systems stood alone, staring out the window, thinking only of her. 2 days passed, and Mira didn't go back to the top floor. Lonnie had returned from her cousin's event and took over her own cleaning shifts again. Mira didn't say much about what had happened during the nights she covered for her friend. She didn't know how to explain it, not the peaceful glass floor, not the mint tea, and certainly not Rian. Instead, Mira returned to her usual floor, wiping handrails and emptying bins, while her thoughts drifted upward. Late one evening, as she was finishing her tasks, her wrist chip blinked. A message appeared on her cleaning tablet. "You have been invited to Novacore's annual Unity Gala, Level 100, this Saturday, 7 p.m. Her heart skipped. At first, she thought it was a mistake. Her name shouldn't be on such a list. She was just a cleaner, but the message was real. Her ID had been confirmed. The sender's name? Anonymous. Mira stared at the screen. Then slowly, her lips curled into a small smile. The next evening, she told Lonnie about the invite. Her friend's mouth fell open. "Wait, you got a gala invitation? For level 100? That's elite only," Mira shrugged. "It might be a mistake." "No way," Lonnie said. "Somebody wants you there. You have to go." "I don't have anything to wear," Mira said quietly. Lonnie grinned and opened her closet. "You do now." Saturday arrived faster than Mira expected. She wore a long silver dress Lonnie had kept from an old ceremony, clean, elegant, simple. Mira's hair was tied back in a loose braid. Her makeup was light, but her natural beauty still shined. At 6:50 p.m., She stood at the base of Orion's spire, heart beating faster than ever. The elevator doors opened, and she stepped inside. The system recognized her ID and took her up all the way up. When she reached level 100, it was nothing like the quiet nights she remembered. The top floor had transformed, soft blue and gold. Lights floated like stars along the ceiling. Gentle music filled the air. Guests in fine clothes, humans, off-worlders, and high-level staff mingled beside tall glass tables filled with sparkling drinks and silver trays. Mira stepped forward carefully, not wanting to be noticed, but heads turned. She didn't see herself the way others did, graceful, poised, and glowing in the soft lights. She was used to blending into the background. But tonight she didn't fade. She stood out. She walked quietly to the side of the room and picked up a small fruit drink. Her eyes scanned the space. She didn't know who to speak to or why she was even there. Then the music lowered. Lights dimmed slightly. And a voice came through the air. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO of Novacore Systems, Rian Vale." Mira froze. She turned slowly as a spotlight shone on the stage near the center. And there he was. Rian. Not in simple clothes, not sipping tea, but in a dark suit with a silver Novacore emblem on his chest. His presence was calm but strong. His eyes scanned the crowd until they found hers. Their eyes locked for a moment. Then he smiled. Mira's heart dropped. Everything she thought she knew about him shifted. He wasn't just a worker. He was the man in charge. The CEO, the one who made decisions, the one who owned the building she cleaned. Her chest tightened. She turned quickly and walked toward the far side of the room. Rian finished his short speech, thanking the guests and announcing Novacore's plans for cross-species projects and better city programs. But all he could think about was Mira. He stepped down, nodding to board members and avoiding their questions. He needed to find her. When he reached the edge of the crowd, she was gone. He moved through the guests, searching every corner. At last he found her near the elevator, standing alone, her hands folded in front of her. "Mira," he said softly. She didn't turn. "I didn't know," she said quietly. "All this time, you were him." Rian took a slow breath. "I didn't lie to you. I just didn't tell you everything." She finally turned to face him. Her eyes were calm but guarded. "You let me speak freely," she said. "I said things about this company, about how people feel. You never corrected me." "Because you were right," Rian said. "And no one tells me the truth anymore, not the way you did." "But why me?" she asked. "Why bring me here tonight?" "Because your words stayed with me," he said gently. "You reminded me of what this place was supposed to be." Mira looked at the guest behind him. "I don't belong here." "You belong exactly here," he said. "You belong in every room where decisions are made. You understand what people go through down below." She didn't answer. Rian stepped closer. "Please don't walk away. Let me explain." Mira's heart was heavy. Part of her wanted to run. Another part wanted to stay. "I don't know what to think right now," she whispered. "Then let me show you," he said. "Not tonight, but in the days ahead." He held out his hand. Not as a CEO, not as a boss, just as Rian. She looked at his hand, then she looked into his eyes, and for the first time, she didn't see a title. She saw the same man who shared tea and stories, who listened, who cared. Her hand moved, almost on its own, and touched his just for a moment. Then the elevator door opened beside them. "I should go," she said. He nodded slowly. "All right, but this isn't the end, Mira. Not if you don't want it to be." She stepped into the lift, and the doors closed between them. Rian stood alone again on level 100, but this time, the silence felt colder. Mira didn't go back to the top floor after the gala. For 2 nights, she stayed quiet, working her usual shifts on the lower levels. Her hands moved, but her thoughts wandered. The memory of the lights, the music, the faces his face kept. Returning like a wave she couldn't stop, Rian Vale. The name was now everywhere. His image appeared on screens across the tower. He had given a speech at the city council. He had announced new projects for fair wages and safety reviews across all Novacore departments. Everyone seemed impressed. Everyone except Mira. She sat in the break room during her short meal break, staring at a small tea bag in her hand. Mint. Lonnie walked in, her face bright. "Hey, you see the news? The CEO is talking about change cleaner upgrades, better food plans, even free training programs for low-level staff." Mira nodded slowly. Lonnie sat across from her. "I bet it was because of you." "What do you mean?" Myra asked. "I mean," Lonnie grinned, "you were invited to that gala. He talked to you, right? Maybe he listened." Mira forced a small smile. Maybe. She didn't tell Lonnie about the whole truth. About Rian's double life. About the nights they had shared tea, stories, and silence. It felt too personal now. Too heavy. Upstairs, Rian stared at a blank screen in his office. The room was quiet, but his mind was not. His assistant had told him that Mira hadn't returned. She had taken no shifts on level 100. She hadn't answered the message he sent her. After the gala, he had pushed pause on the AI upgrade project. The executives had argued, but Rian stood firm. "Not until we review the human experience first," he'd said. Now he sat alone, wondering if his silence, his hidden truth, had broken something more important than any system. Her trust. The next evening, Mira received a message. It wasn't through Novacore. It came as a folded letter in her locker, handwritten. "You were right about everything. I should have told you who I was. I didn't because I was tired of being the man with the title. I just wanted someone to see me. But now, I realize I should have seen you first. Rian." She read it twice, then folded it and placed it gently in her bag. Days passed. The tower felt colder, even though the weather stayed the same. Rian sat in on floor meetings. He asked questions that shocked managers. He visited the lower levels without notice. Some workers were scared at first. Others were hopeful. No one expected the CEO to walk past broken panels or sit in dusty chairs. Mira still didn't appear. Until one evening, he stepped into the supply hall on level 24 and saw her standing near the tool station, checking a cleaning drone. She didn't look up when he walked in. Rian stopped a few feet away. "Mira." Her hands paused, but she didn't speak. "I've been trying to find the right time," he said. She kept her eyes on the drone. Time passed. He stepped closer. "I never meant to lie. I just wanted to be normal with you." Mira set the drone down gently. "You wanted honesty, but you didn't give it back." He nodded slowly. "You're right." She finally turned to him. Her eyes were steady, calm, but guarded. "You listened to me," she said, "but it still feels like I was part of some hidden test." "No," Rian said quickly. "You were never a test. You were the first real voice I'd heard in years." "Then why keep me in the dark?" she asked. "Why let me talk like we were equals when you were the one in control the whole time?" "Because I didn't feel like I was in control," he said. "Not when I was with you. You didn't treat me like a title. You treated me like a person." Mira crossed her arms. "And now? You're back to being the CEO again." "I don't want to be just the CEO anymore," Rian said. "I want to lead differently, the way you showed me." She didn't speak. He took a breath. "I'm making real changes, Mira, but I don't want to do it alone. I need someone who understands both sides, someone who sees what I can't." Mira frowned slightly. "What are you asking?" "I want you to work with me, not as a cleaner. As an advisor, someone who tells the truth, no matter how hard it is." She stared at him. "You trust me enough for that?" She asked. "I trust you more than I trust anyone here." The room was quiet. Then Mira said, "It's not about trust, Rian. It's about choice." He nodded. Then I'll wait for your choice. However long it takes. He stepped back and left the room. Mira stood alone again, the quiet settling around her. But this time, she wasn't confused. She was thinking. That night, Lonnie found Mira sitting near the edge of the tower gardens, holding the letter Rian had written. You okay? Lonnie asked gently. Mira nodded. Just deciding. About the CEO? About what comes next? Lonnie smiled and sat beside her. Whatever you choose, I know it'll be the right thing. Mira smiled faintly. Maybe broken trust could be repaired. Maybe not. But she knew this much. She still believed in people. She still believed in change. And maybe, just maybe, she still believed in him. Rain tapped softly against the glass walls of Orion's spire as the city lights blinked through the clouds. It was evening, and Mira was finally home, sitting quietly on the small couch beside her younger brother, Sami. He was watching a science cartoon, laughing at the silly robot characters. Mira smiled weakly and pulled a blanket over his shoulders, but her mind was far from the screen. The past few days had stirred something deep inside her. She had seen change begin to move in NovaCore equipment upgrades on the lower floors, a new listening post installed for staff feedback, and free repair kits handed to support workers. All of this had Rian's name behind it, but that didn't erase the silence that came before it. Her doorbell buzzed. Mira blinked and stood up slowly. She checked the screen near the door. It was him. Rian Vale stood outside. Not in a suit, not in formal shoes, but in the same simple clothes he used to wear during their late-night talks. He held no bag, no device. Just a folded umbrella and a nervous look in his eyes. Mira opened the door, unsure what to say. I should have messaged, he said quietly. But I didn't want to give you another reason to ignore me. She looked at him for a long second, then stepped aside. Come in. He entered slowly, his eyes scanning the small room. The walls were plain. A shelf with a few books. A kitchen corner with teacups. This is nice, he said softly. It's home, she replied. Sami peeked from the couch. Mira introduced them. Sami, this is Rian. He's from my work. Sami gave a curious look, then waved. Rian smiled and waved back. Hi. Mira handed her brother a snack and whispered for him to stay put while she talked. She and Rian moved to the tiny kitchen area. Mira poured 2 cups of hot water and placed mint leaves in each. They sat across from each other at a small wooden table. Rian was the first to speak. I came here because I owed you more than just a letter. Mira didn't speak. She waited. I was selfish, he said. I didn't want to be seen as a title, so I hid it from you. But I didn't think how that would make you feel. She looked down at her cup. I didn't lie to you, he added. But I also didn't trust you with the truth. That was wrong. Mira finally looked at him. Why now, Rian? Because you deserve more than half-truths, he said. Because you believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. She held her cup with both hands. You listened to me when no one else did, she said quietly. You made me feel important. But then I saw you on that stage, and it all felt unreal. I understand, Rian said. I wanted you to see the real me, but I forgot to see the real you first. Mira nodded slowly. I don't want power, she said. I don't want attention. I just want to be useful, honest, and respected. That's why I need you, he said. Not as a guest, not as a cleaner, but as someone who guides this company. I need your eyes, Mira, your heart, your voice. She looked at him. You want me to be part of the change? He nodded. I want you to be at the center of it. She stayed silent for a while, thinking. The rain outside had stopped. A breeze moved the window curtain gently. Then she said, I'll do it. Rian sat up straighter. But not because of you, she continued. I'll do it for the workers, for the ignored voices, for the ones no one sees. He smiled, not offended, but proud. That's exactly why I chose you. Sami walked into the kitchen at that moment, holding a toy robot. "Do you fix bots?" "Too," he asked Rian. Rian chuckled. "Not as well as your sister." Sami nodded seriously, then went back to the couch. Mira smiled faintly. Then Rian reached into his coat and placed a small item on the table, a POCO Novacore badge with a silver blue mark. "This gives you access to every floor," he said. "You'll have your own desk, your own team. But no one will control your words." Mira stared at the badge. "It feels strange," she said. "It should," he replied. "The right things always do it first." They stood. Mira walked him to the door. Before he stepped outside, he turned to her. "Is there still a chance?" he asked softly. She looked at him, eyes calm. "I don't know yet," she said honestly. "Let's start with one step at a time." He nodded, understanding. "I'll see you Monday," she said. He smiled. "I'll be there." Then he walked away into the now clear night. Later that night, Mira stood by the window, holding the badge in one hand and the teacup in the other. Sami came beside her. "Is he your friend?" Mira looked out into the stars above the city. "Maybe," she said. "Maybe something more. But first we build something better." Sami nodded, then returned to his cartoon, and Mira, for the first time in weeks, felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Monday morning arrived with a soft glow through Myra's small apartment window. The city outside buzzed quietly, but inside, Mira felt calm. Today was the day she would start a new chapter, a chance to help change Novacore systems from the inside. She dressed carefully, choosing simple but neat clothes. She pinned the silver blue badge Rian had given her onto her jacket. It felt heavy, but also full of promise. Sami hugged her goodbye. "Good luck, Mira," he said, his eyes wide. She smiled. "Thank you, little brother." When Mira stepped into Orion's spire, the elevator hummed softly as it lifted her toward the top floors. She noticed other employees greeting her with polite nods and friendly smiles. It was a new world. At level 100, a small office awaited her, a clean space with a desk, a computer, and a few plants. A team of workers introduced themselves. They were engineers, planners, and people from all levels of the company. They looked ready to listen. Rian greeted her at the door, his usual calm expression brighter than before. "Welcome, Myra," he said. "Ready to begin?" She nodded. More than ever. The weeks that followed were filled with meetings, walks through lower floors, and many honest talks. Mira and her team listened to workers' stories about broken machines, unfair hours, and forgotten voices. They collected ideas and made plans to improve the working conditions step by step. Some managers resisted the changes, fearing loss of control or profit. But Rian stood firm, supporting Myra's vision. One afternoon, Mira walked with Rian through the corridors where she used to clean. She pointed to a flickering light and said, "That one's been broken for months." Rian nodded and made a note. "See this panel?" she continued. "It's cracked. It's small, but it shows how little attention the lower floors get." Rian smiled. "You have an eye for details," Mira smiled back. "It's because I've lived it." One evening, after a long day, Mira found Rian standing alone by the glass wall overlooking the city. She approached quietly. "You did good today," he said without turning. She leaned beside him. "We did good." They stood in silence, watching the glowing city below. Finally, Rian said, "You've changed more than the company, Mira." She looked at him. "How?" He smiled softly. "You reminded me of why I started this. To help people, not just profits." Mira's heart beat faster. "You know," Rian continued, "I never wanted to lose what we found together." She blushed slightly. "Neither did I." Days turned into weeks, and Mira's role grew. She was no longer just a cleaner filling in shifts. She was a voice, a bridge between worlds, a symbol of hope. Her relationship with Rian deepened too. Not rushed, not loud, but steady and true. One late night after a long meeting, Rian walked Mira to the elevator. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Anything. Will you trust me? Not just as CEO, but as a man." Mira smiled softly. "Trust is earned. And I believe you're earning it." The elevator doors closed. Months later, Nova Core systems looked different. The lower floors were brighter, cleaner, and alive with energy. Workers smiled more. Machines worked better. A new culture was growing, one of respect, honesty, and care. At the next annual gala, Mira stood beside Rian, no longer the mysterious cleaner but a respected leader. They held hands. And for the first time, the city saw them as equals, not just CEO and worker, but partners. As the lights dimmed and music played softly, Mira whispered, "Thank you for seeing me." Rian smiled. "Thank you for being you." And above them, the stars blinked quietly, witnessing a new beginning.